So kind of just introduce myself. So I am a product manager of Dragonfly and a part of Black Swan. So an issue we currently are facing in the moment in the market, not necessarily just in food, but in many, many sectors, is consumers are exposed to over 5,000 brand messages a day, whether that be when you're shopping or on the TV or any means. There was always branded messages trying to get that cut through. So brands are increasingly have to work harder with their creative to ensure that they're engaging that consumer and beating their competitors in that space. So what we do as humans is we are specifically viewing visual pathways that kind of process visual information. And this kind of helps you kind of perceive how you kind of convey everything around you. Now, what we've done in partnership with Queen Mary's University of London is that we've kind of built a product, which I'm going to explain to you in a little while, which very much measures visual saliency. Now, to kind of just give you a bit of a background on what visual saliency is, it's kind of a barometer of kind of how the quality of which visual information is processed. So if there's a kit of parts, let's say it's a packaging, for example, you've got a logo, you've got a call to action, you've got an image. Now, what are you going to have? You're going to have 3 separate bits of marketing there. And what we're measuring is the differentiation between those 3 things, and that is what we call visual saliency. And the important thing of here with measuring visual saliency is you want to see when someone's exposed to your product for that first time, what exactly their eye is drawn to. And obviously, if that is of importance to you, if you, for example, want to ensure that it's a new brand or a new NPD, and that's the first thing you want to convey to your consumer in those first few seconds, this is what Dragonfly is designed to do. So, the beauty of Dragonfly. So it's based on a biological computational model. Now, there are a lot of other products on the market which are based on a very simple computational model. Now, this actually takes the psychology of visual intention and how you assimilate visual information, and it allows you to actually replicate the human eye. Now, as humans, we see everything exactly the same way for the first 0 to 3 seconds. So one of our board members actually went to a lecture on artificial intelligence and robotics at Queen Mary's University London 3 years ago now. And that's exactly what the lecturer said. They said from the first 0 to 3 seconds, wherever we are in the world, whether you're male or female, whether you're in Asia or South Africa, we see everything exactly the same way for the first 0 to 3 seconds. And she thought it was so powerful that after the lecture, she went to the lecturer himself and she said, right, now if what you are saying is true, and we as human beings are predisposed to see everything exactly the same way for that first 0 to 3 seconds, you could be answering some very, very interesting questions in all the way from design to optimization of marketing. So again, if what you are saying is true and we could work together on this, is there an opportunity that we could be answering that question? Lecturer said yes, so fast forward 3 years from now. And we have really moved leaps and bounds with this. I'll be showing you a little demo in a while. So the kind of clients we work with, the likes of GSK and many others as well. So as I said, saliency is based on 5 key things. So it's based on contrast, scale, texture, orientation, and luminance. So a lot of other guys in the market will be working on a very simple computational model, which will be measuring the very basic granular differences between a red and a blue and a yellow and a green. Now, what we're doing here is we're actually measuring 5 key factors in equal consideration. So, for example, something like this can consider that a background is actually a texture rather than just a colour, which is an incredible, powerful thing to do. And obviously, as a designer and as a marketer, what you want to do is, before you're putting a lot of money into production for a design of a brand, for taking a new design to market, is you want to have a stage whereby what you've actually managed to do is prove from an unbiased and statistical analysis that your design is going to be working against all your competitors in the market. And this is what this allows you to do. Okay, so this is very much based on a bottom-up processing model. So I'm sure you're all very familiar with the likes of eye tracking and eye testing. So this is very much a top-down processing model. So let's take the example of a Pringles cone, that really iconic Pringles cone. Now, if you were to change the shape of the Pringles cone, say a carton, what you've actually done is you've affected the top-down processing. So that's the contextual knowledge that you have of that product. Now, if you were to turn that upside down on its head and you were to actually then change the iconic logo of the Pringles cone, what you've then done is you've affected the bottom-up processing. So that's the brain's automatic, innate, completely uncontrolled visual information, and that's how you build perception, and it creates that decision and behavior, which obviously when you're in a shopping supermarket, and a lot of people now, I believe there was a case I read quite a while ago where 72% of people, when they walk into a shopping market, do not write shopping lists anymore. Shopping lists are no longer much now a thing of the past. You're very much at that point where you're in that shopping market in a situ battle with your competitors. How are you going to perceive beyond and beyond? And that's through packaging and design. So I'll go through some of the main features first, and then I'll go do a very short demo momentarily. So I've actually specialised in visual psychology. That's why I was kind of brought onto this project. So I've kind of worked with some similar products in the past, but I've never come across anything which works quite as quickly as this. So one of our main USPs as a tool is the real-time functionality. Now, this is basically based on an intrinsic model, which actually means that if you wanted to see how your product is performing in situ in a shopper supermarket compared to your competitors, you can simply take a photo, it will analyze it instantly, and it will be providing you data, and that's because it's based on an intrinsic model whereby the algorithms actually been embedded into the product itself. Many of the other products in the market work on an extrinsic model whereby it's quite a cumbersome process where you have to upload an image onto a separate algorithm, which then takes some time to process and provides it back to you. So it's a very simple and rapid analysis, adjustable for context. So not only is it for shopper marketing, but it also can be used in digital media, print, packaging design, point of sale, direct marketing, store layout. Basically, any form of marketing collateral you can apply Dragonfly to. So if I show you just a very quick example of a saliency demo. Now, what I've done here is I've edited a single part of that image, which is flashing, and I challenge you to see where I've made that change. I'll give you a couple of seconds. How about I give you a clue? So the tower in context to the rest of that image, if I were to run a dragonfly over it, is a low saliency area. And that's why we find significantly longer, it takes a significantly longer period of time for people to differentiate that change. Now here's the second. There we go. I wanted to see how many people got that significantly faster. Now again, if you run the the saliency heat map over that, what you can see is that is actually in a very high saliency area. So your visual attention was drawn there, and that's why you would have differentiated that change much quicker. Okay, so what I'm going to do very quickly is I'm actually going to show you Dragonfly. So, go here very quick. There we go. Bear with me while I log in. Okay, So what you can see is we've got 4 features here. Now, the one which tends to excite people most, especially within the food sector, is the capture tool. Now, what you can see here, if I were to run a heat map over that, now what that's doing in real time is that is recalibrating and recalculating the visual saliency and where your eye is naturally drawn to within a visual field.
I'm not very interesting, then, obviously.
Huh?
I'm not very interesting, I'm not very good.
Are you not?
I just fake into the background.
Now, there's many, obviously it's not just based on contrast. As I said, it's based on those 5 measures which I did earlier. The split screen, there you go there. So you can actually see where it's measuring there. If I go back, if I actually add some context onto this, if I import an image, so I've got an expo here. So let's take the Dove website, for example. Now, obviously Dove, Unilever, a very aspirational brand, obviously refreshing the website all the time. Now, if I were to run a very quick grid analysis over it, what I can see here is actually the image has the highest saliency here. Now, was this their intention when they created the website? Was it actually the usability? They wanted that image to be the first thing that someone saw on the website? Probably not. So if you were to do a deeper delve, because we've got 4 different grid sizes, what you can see is actually the hair which has the highest saliency. Now, if I wanted to run a regional analysis, so the regional analysis is where it gets really interesting, I can actually see that within this area, her hair has a visual saliency of 78. However, if it was, for example, the Dove logo, which was the most important thing they wanted to see for brand verity, that actually has a visual saliency of 44. Now, a lot of people ask me, what is a good saliency score? That's not necessarily what we're telling you here. We're telling you that visual saliency is relative to all the other kit of parts. So what it's actually providing you with is a visual hierarchy. So when you're working with marketers and designers, what it actually allows you to do is think far more intuitively and far more in depth about actually what the most important aspect of your creative is. Okay, so then we go back. So what I'll do is some A/B testing. So let's take, for example, the Quakers image. So what Quakers did here is that they brought out a new USP product on a 2 minutes perfect porridge. Now, they brought it out in 2 flavours. They brought it out in golden syrup and original. Now, unbeknown to them, what they did is actually, with a USP, with a product like that, obviously what they want to be stressing at that point of sale is actually, it's the 2 minutes, which is the most important thing. But when you actually compare the saliency of those 2 regions side by side, is that they've actually completely, unbeknown to them, very much changed the saliency of that USP. Now, that's something which is obviously very exciting to them to know, and obviously from the back of this, they're now making some very intuitive decisions on this. So I can now do the image, expo, and then from a shopper marketing perspective thing. So if, again, you wanted to see how your brand was performing in situ to a competitor, so let's say this is Tropicana, and then you wanted to do a smaller grid size, I could see that Tropicana, as a product, compared to their competitors, has a saliency of 77. But if you wanted to actually compare it to, let's say, Naked, you can see they're very much winning that in situ battle. Okay, so I'm now going to go back to the rest of the presentation. Okay. It's going to come back. Excuse me. It doesn't seem to be coming back on screen. Just plugged it back. Sorry, technical problems.
Making sure I don't trample
Yeah,
everything.
just here.
Yeah. So what we need to do is just go back to there.
So how am I doing for time? 5 minutes, perfect.
Okay.
Okay, so kind of to move on forward. So how can Dragonfly help lovely people like yourself? So essentially, from a packaging and from a marketing and branding point of view, the intel that it's really providing you with is you're actually finding out what is attracting your consumers' attention within those first few couple of seconds. And conversely, you're also identifying potential distractors and distractions which may actually be detracting from people purchasing your product at that point of sale. So what is currently being ignored or not being found, which you really prioritize within your packaging. And obviously what that's going to be doing is very much optimizing your communication and conversion across multiple channels. So key benefits of Dragonfly, as I showed you, the real-time functionality really is very, very exciting, and there's absolutely no one else in the market that can work on a real-time basis. It's very much reducing costs of those traditional creative research methods, so via eye tracking. So for an eye tracking study to be robust, you're looking at least 40 people and supplanting them with questions before they've even been exposed to the product, which is obviously going to be very much biasing the statistical analysis which is coming out of it. Obviously with this it's completely unbiased and a fraction of the cost. It's providing you again a completely objective and unbiased statistical analysis and really driving and streamlining that marketing collateral process all the way from pre-concept to optimization and statistically proved to improve that ROI. Okay, so then we come on to a case study. So unfortunately, I'm not actually allowed to tell you who it is, but it's a very large national insurance company came to Dragonfly around 3-4 months ago, and they were experiencing a 100% drop-off on jewelry insurance, and for the life of them, they absolutely could not work out why. So they started using Dragonfly. In the first instance, their agency went away. They didn't really use Dragonfly, they just made the iterations they believed were correct, ran Dragonfly over it and provided it back to the client. The client wasn't best pleased. They said, right, that's not exactly what we asked you to do. We asked you to use Dragonfly to make those initial changes, so pushed back. On the first instance, they got a 10% uplift in new customer interaction from a 100% drop-off. Now, the marketing team were obviously quite interested by that, so they then had to go to the branding teams. The branding teams were slightly reluctant to relinquish their branding guidelines, but after a bit of convincing, they did so. So on the second attempt, they got a 21% uplift from a 100% drop-off. This then became quite compelling. The marketing team went back to the branding team again, and it was on the third instance that they got that 41 uplift in new customer interaction. And that is it. Thank you for your time.